Okay, guys, so we had just finished talking about the GDP and how the GDP does not measure well-being. So then the question becomes, how do we get a more accurate or holistic representation of the true health of a country? So a lot of scientists are now advocating for the use of what we call the GPI. Okay, so the GPI stands for the Genuine Progress Indicator. Okay, the Genuine Progress Indicator. So this is what's going to give us a more accurate representation. And it takes into account a lot of things that the GDP doesn't. So it's a more accurate representation. Okay, so these are things that the Genuine Progress Indicator takes into account. Education levels. So education, it takes into account pollution. It also looks at health of the population. It looks at income distribution, which we know for sure is not equal. Distribution, I misspelled it. This should be I. Okay, distribution. So, that's why a lot of scientists are now advocating for the use of the GPI instead of the GDP. Okay, so this is where I want to challenge you guys to start examining your own worldview. So here we have what are called environmental value systems. These basically describe the different ways that people can view the interaction between humans and the environment. Okay, so we're going to start in the middle and work our way out. All right, so we've talked about the tragedy of the commons, and we know that humans are intrinsically selfish. So right here in the middle, this is where we have self-centered. Okay, there's absolutely zero regard for the environment here. So I'm going to put right here the TOC, which is our tragedy of the commons. Okay, now the next layer out, we refer to this as Anthropocentric. So Anthropocentric. Okay, so the prefix anthro means human or man. Anthropocentric basically means that nature should provide for us. That is the only reason it is here. We are basically humans. We control everything. So this belief is that nature should provide for us. Okay. The next layer out, we have what's called biocentric. Okay, so let's think back to freshman biology. Yeah, I know it's probably not a pleasant experience. Biocentric, the prefix bio means life. Okay, so in a biocentric worldview or value system, it states that all species on Earth have equal value. Okay, so all species have equal value. Okay, now if we want to go one layer out, all right, this is what we call ecocentric. Now the prefix eco means world. All right, so ecocentric means that there's equal value on all living things and the ecosystems. Okay, so equal value for all things and ecosystems. Now, when you guys get done with this section of notes, there's going to be a discussion post where I want you to identify what you are. Where do you fall in this value system? Are you self-centered? Are you anthropocentric? Are you biocentric? Are you ecocentric? And there's not a right or wrong answer, guys. You are what you are, and you believe what you believe, and I'm not here to change your mind. I do want you to identify yourself and try to give me a reason why you fall within that value system. Okay. So this is a cute little picture. So we have right here 2 frogs hanging out in a pot of boiling water. All right. So the first frog says to the second frog, "We will get out when you prove we will be boiled alive." And the second frog comments, "We should get out until you can prove we won't be boiled alive." So these are basically 2 opposing views. You've got the burden of proof, which is our first frog, and then you've got the precautionary principle, which is the second frog. And as an environmental scientist, we want to advocate for the precautionary principle. Okay? So basically, if you don't know the outcome of a situation and you know that it could possibly result in something that is harmful, we should avoid doing it until we have more information. So, what this says is if the results of an action are uncertain, okay? If the results of an action are uncertain, it is best to choose the option that is harmless. Okay, I'm going to erase that, guys. That's pretty ugly. Come on. There we go. If the results of an action are uncertain, it is best to choose the option that is least harmful. You probably have friends that are like, hey, let's do whatever, and you may be like that too. So that would be the opposite viewpoint of this one. So that's the precautionary principle. All right. Now, lastly, what I want to talk to you guys about is how social, environmental, and economic issues interact. Okay? So we've got the social aspect, which is basically going to be our standard of living. Okay? We've got the environmental impact, which is natural resource use. And this is going to be anything from air to water to fossil fuels. So natural resource use. And then economic, which ultimately is always about profit. Okay? So this point right here, this point right here, where all 3 interact, this is what we want to strive for. So this is what we call sustainability. So in sustainability, oh my gosh, guys. So sustainability is making sure that we are not using resources faster than they can be replenished. We want our children to inherit something. We want them to have the same opportunities that we do. Now, we know that this is not what we actually see. And like I said, this right here, guys, this is an ideal situation, an ideal scenario. Obviously, humans, we're not living sustainably right now because we're depleting our resources. And a lot of this is going to tie into what we call environmental racism or injustice. Okay? So, when this does not happen, we have environmental racism. Okay? Environmental racism. And I'm just going to use Arlington as an example. You've got, us at Sam Houston, and then you've got the kids that go to Martin. We know that, they have better roads, they have better infrastructure on the Martin side of town. And the reason that this happens is because people in power believe that minorities aren't willing to fight for what they believe in. And so this is something that we've been hearing a lot in the news about lately. Okay? When you have environmental racism, you have people of lower incomes and minorities who are exposed to more environmental hazards. They have unequal exposure. They have more exposure. If you look at Flint, Michigan, they still don't have clean water in Flint, Michigan. So this is something that we're going to be diving into after you guys complete your Unit 1 test. We're actually going to do a project on environmental racism, and we're going to look at specific examples. Okay, so that is it for Unit 1, guys. Please make sure that if you have any lingering remaining questions that you bring them up so that I can help you. And I want to make sure that you guys are ready for your test next class. All right, take care, guys.